Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for being here. So as you can see from the colours that I'm going to use today, this is very much a fall and an autumnal colour palette choice. It's very inspired by that season. All of my paints are mixed with a pouring medium, Floetrol. It's 3 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. So I've mixed them up. All the colours and the brands of the paint and all my ratios will be listed in the description box below, so please check that out. I'm also using a black and a white, and I'm going to swipe with some gold. That gold is mixed with Australian Floetrol, 4 parts Australian Floetrol to 1 part paint. I'm going to do some stripes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the colours. So the colour palette that's inspired by autumn, and I'm literally going to layer the paint starting from the middle of the canvas, working my way to the outer edge, just in lines. I'm doing strips of paint all the way across the middle. So I'll leave you now to see how I do that. I'm going to take one colour at a time, and then I'm going to do something with the black and the white. So the colours that I've chosen for this are very much autumnal. They remind me of the changing season that autumn brings. So when I look at the leaves on the tree, they start off with like a green colour, and then they transform into all the other colours that you see on this palette, ranging from the yellows, the darker browns, and even the violets and the reds. So that's why I've chosen those colours specifically for this pour. You'll see that I'm going over each paint that I've already layered. I just wanted a thicker layer of paint because my canvas is 20 by 20 inches. I'm just picking it up now to make sure that the flow of that paint is good, because that's going to really matter later on when we stretch out the design. So that's the colour added to this creation. But now I'm going to transfer over to my white and my black. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the white first, and I'm going to do exactly the same what I did with the colours. I'm just going to layer the paint in a line, in a stripe direction, all the way across each end. And then the gaps that you can see that I'm leaving will be filled with the black paint. This is going to be a really interesting design, so please stay tuned to see the final outcome, because I'm going to add some shadows using the gold with the swipe technique, and using a comb I'm going to add some patterns. But first of all, let's look at the gold. Now this is mixed with Australian Floetrol, 4 parts Australian Floetrol to 1 part paint. And the intention here isn't necessarily to create a lot of lacing, but what I want to do is I want to add some shadows to the black and the white areas. And I'm going to do this by using my palette knife and literally stretching the gold paint across those colours. You'll see here that I'm loading up my palette knife with some of that gold paint. It's got a good coverage on the palette knife. I'm placing my palette knife on the surface of the paint that's already layered, and I'm literally just using one stroke all the way across from one edge to the other. I will wipe my palette knife off, I will load the palette knife up again with the gold paint, and then I will go again in the opposite direction. So the intention here isn't to create a lot of lacing or cells. We'll get some, and that's good. But I really wanted to create like a shadow effect. I really wanted to create some depth within these pieces where you see the black and the white. I'm also going to repeat this process for the other side of the canvas where you can see the black and the white stripes of paint. So I load up my palette knife. I don't press too hard. I literally allow the palette knife to touch the surface of the paint and I allow it to glide across. I try and keep a steady hand, but it really doesn't matter because we are going to stretch out this design anyway. Okay, so let's now create some patterns. And I'm going to create patterns just using a comb. All I'm going to do is I'm going to place my comb fully immersed into the paint and I'm just going to drag it in different directions. You can see here that I've started off in the center and I've just done a straight line from top to bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my comb back in the paint, immerse it fully in the paint and just do some swirls. I'm going to do that a couple of times just to create some interest, create some patterns within those paints, and then that's going to also transform when we stretch out the design so it goes fully over the surface of the canvas. I'll take you in for a close look just so you can see how that comb and how the swiping using the palette knife has created the patterns that you can see and the shadow effect on the black and the white paint. That comb has created different shapes within that paint and that's going to be amplified when we stretch that out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick my canvas up and I'm literally going to tilt it from side to side. I first of all want to cover the left and the right sides. So all I'm doing is tilting in one direction, allowing the paint to travel over the surface of that canvas, across to the part of the canvas that needs the paint coverage, and it will then drip down the side. Once it's done that on one side, I then tilt my canvas back on itself and move the paint to the other direction to allow full coverage on the other side. And then once I've done that, I bring the paint back on itself because we've got enough paint on this canvas to fully cover it. I'm going to tip the canvas in an upwards and downwards motion. That's going to help fill and cover the rest of the canvas that you can see. And again, I'm going to tip the canvas up in the opposite direction. I'm going to place it on my stands and move it around just so you can see it. and it will help with the movement of the paint as you tilt. The idea here is to now fully cover the canvas base using the paint that we've already layered on top. But you'll see as we do this, the patterns that we created with the comb and the shadowing that we created with the palette knife is creating a really interesting design. I'm going to take you in now for a close-up of the wet version, and then I'll let this dry and show you the end result. It's really interesting and I can't wait for you to see some of that close-up detail. So here we go. Let me take you in now for a closer look at this wet version. And can you see the shadowing effect that we've created using that gold that was fully swiped across that black and that white line that we created right at the beginning? And the comb has created some really interesting lines and details. And yeah, I'm really happy with this. I know this is very different to what I normally do, but I really do love those lines and those details. You can see some of it there in the yellow, but also how that comb has created some movement with those lines across those black and white stripes. Really, really interesting. And I'd love to know what you think. What do you think when you see this piece? It almost reminds me of a zebra, but obviously with a very, very colourful stripe down the middle. It's a fall and an autumn inspired piece because of the colour palette, and we've created different movement by using the comb and the palette knife when we've been tilting it out for the composition. So here's the dried version. I'd really, really love to know what you think. I'll take you in for a close-up so you can see some of the details, but let me know in the comments below what you think of this piece, what you think of the technique that we've done today using the comb with the palette knife, and the overall kind of vibe that you get. I'd love to hear from you, so let me know. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate all of your support. I read all of your comments and I do reply to everyone. So thank you again for all of your support, and I really hope I get to see you again in the next video. I'll leave you with some of these details and I hope you have a great week. See you soon everyone, and take care of yourselves. Bye.